Okay. So as you know, the topic for today's webinar is increase your ROI. And how? Through your people, because every organization has material, they have processes, they have systems, they have capital, they have time, and they have manpower. And the only resource which can bring about a differentiation is your manpower. So I'm going to dedicate the day today about how we are going to increase our return on investment with manpower by nurturing a performance-driven culture. So in the interest of time, because we had promised to start at 3, we are going to start now. So before we move on, I have a question from all of you, and I will request Sunir to give us the link to the Mentimeter and the passcode. I would like you to please tell me what are the costs associated with manpower. So you can go to the link Mentimeter. There is a passcode that is given. If anybody has a query, you can put it on chat or you can unmute yourself and ask me.
The link is www.menti.com. And the passcode is, both the things are there in the chat, please.
So you can see the chat. I've opened it up. Please click on www.menti.com. Then you will see this question. What are the costs associated with manpower? And then you have to put this thing. So please give us your responses here. So Sunir, may I request you to share the results with us?
Yes, 1 second, Richa.
Ritesh, can you put it in the Mentimeter? So that, everybody will be able to see it on the screen together. Please click on www.menti.com. Enter this passcode 90607696 and kindly add it there.
Ritesh, kindly add in the www.menti.com, please.
Yeah, I'm just adding.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ritesh. Oh, lovely. So as you can see, the cost that we are looking at is tea, coffee, insurance, upskilling, and I'll be happy for you to take screenshots of this: recruitment, salary, infrastructure, retirals, administrative cost, employee events, customer satisfaction, employee benefits, increments, time not utilized. Beautiful. That's a wonderful thing somebody's given us. Transportation cost, compensation and benefits, employer brand building. Beautiful. So Sunir, maybe you can take it off, and I would like to share my screen now. Okay, great. So can you see my screen? Yeah. Okay. Now I have a very important question. Where else do you spend? Okay. So, when you invest in a painting, right? When you buy, so the painting that you can see here is a Vano, right? And he's a very celebrated Dutch painter. There is a property or a house that you can see, and then you can see stock markets. So whenever you're buying something, you are very clear about the elements that are critical to you. And then there are some things that you ignore, but you are very, very careful. You are also very cognizant of, what are the benefits, the tangible benefits and the intangible benefits. Today, when you buy, let's say, an Audi, so the tangible benefit is that it, helps you, or it gives you the ability to transport from one place to the other. But the intangible benefit is that it adds to your personal brand. And whether it's a vano, whether it's a property, whether it's stocks that you have invested in, you take care of them. You take time in what you have invested. You buy with your eyes open. You are very aware of what this product or service can do or not do. You also accept the limitations which may be there. But the bottom line is you take care of it. You feel proud that this is my possession. And that is the starting point of this workshop today. Yeah. Many times I've seen in many organizations that we work with that when it is a question of hiring manpower, people sometimes do not have the time. They do not invest time in properly going through the process of shortlisting or hiring an employee. They are in a hurry, definitely, but they don't invest the time. Would you do the same when you're buying a vano? No. You would invest a lot of time and effort. So one thing before we move on is that even when you are hiring people, you need to be absolutely clear. What are you investing in? What are the things that are there, the qualities that are there, and what are the qualities that you really need? Let us say that you're trying to hire somebody to look after the stores, but your personal value is that people, that people should have very good communication skills, but that job may not require very high communication skills. So even with the best property that you're buying, the best watch that you're buying, there are certain things that you will get, and there are certain things that you may want to. So when we look at this, let's come back to another very important thing that, what is the value that somebody brings to the table? So the value is there only when whatever that, product or service, whatever it is, the attributes that it brings, or an employee, the competencies that he or she brings to the table, they should match your needs. So when we look at ROI, these are some of the metrics that I would like you to include in your HR deck. Start calculating revenue per employee. Start calculating productivity per employee. Start calculating opportunity cost. So many times, a lot of things don't happen. Sales don't happen. Expansion does not happen. A new campaign does not get launched. Why? Because we do not have the right manpower. Yeah. So before we move on, I would like you to pay attention to this. Now, this is very interesting. There is a quiver and there is an arrow. So if you look at the quiver, that is the organization. And the organization is saying, come back, you are nothing without me. But one thing that I would like to tell you right now, and all of you people who are on the call today, whether they are business owners or HR heads or HR people, you know that the war for talent is very intense right now. It has intensified a lot because talent is not available. So I don't even know how relevant this particular clip art is. Now I have another very quick question that I would like you to respond to. What is valuable to an employee beyond salary? To explain it better, that when an employee joins an organization, what is valuable to an employee other than the salary? So I will request you to go back to Mentimeter and to put in the code in case you have logged out, and please respond to this question. What is valuable to an employee beyond salary?
The question is available on your screen now.
Sunil, you can start screen sharing so that as the answers get populated, people can see it. All of you can also request for the survey. It will come back to you. Okay, recognition.
Is my screen visible now?
Yes, recognition, learning, appreciation, constructive feedback, working culture, work-life balance, beautiful. Benefits, flexi time, recognition, growth, awesome. Respect at work, beautiful. Opportunities to grow. Capability building, wonderful. Awesome. Fairness, culture, play school, creche, facilities. Awesome. I would really like all of you people to take a screenshot of this and, again, I will repeat myself that you can ask for a copy of the survey. It was available in the place where you are entering your answers. Awesome. So what is valuable to an employee beyond salary is work-life balance, flexi time, flexibility, location, feedback, office environment, fair exchange, wonderful. Colleagues, this is very interesting. Whoever has written it, there is a new concept called acquisition. Yeah. And a lot of new organizations are coming out with that, and they acquire people by letting them know that what a wonderful team exists in the organization. Not on the basis of the employer brand, not anything else, but oh, these are the kind of wonderful people we have in the organization. Job satisfaction, working culture, recognition, opportunities to grow, respect. Awesome. All right, now we'd like you to take the next question as well. So I'm going to share my screen and then I'll request Sunil to immediately start sharing so we can see as people are populating. So these are some of the answers that you've given. Now my next question is, what is valuable to the employer other than service from the employees? So today, in the capacity of a HR professional or in the capacity of a business owner, what do you think is valuable to the employer other than the services from the employee? So I will stop share. I will request you to go to Mentimeter. I'll request you to share a screen. Request you to please respond here. Accountability. Awesome. Pride in the organization. FOMO, fear of missing out. All right. So if I'm not working with the organization, then I'm missing out something. Okay. What else? Ownership, loyalty, integrity, adjusting. That's a very interesting thing that I hear. Learner, beautiful. Creativity. Stability, wonderful. Okay, should we wait for any more answers? I'll wait for a couple of seconds. Wonderful. And I'll request all of you to take screenshots again. So customer retention, beautiful. Performance, yes, we want performance. Cooperation, wonderful. Bettering self. Now, this is so important. Whoever has written it, I so much agree with you. So one of the main competencies that is being talked about in every forum now is that only employees who have learning agility will be able to survive. Because in the next 5 years, 70% of the jobs are going to change. So the jobs as we know them are not going to exist. And innovation, learner, team player, behavior, loyalty, pride, availability when required, responsibility, energy, customer satisfaction, adjusting, and integrity. Wonderful. All right. So Sunil, I'll request you for screen share now. Thank you. Anyone would like to come off mute and share their views on this before we move on? Anyone would like to come off mute and...
Hi, Richa.
Hi,
Monica, yeah,
Sonika.
Hi. Okay, so I think, when we talk about today's scenario, because earlier the kind of, the kind of mindset which the owners, probably the business owners were having, it was a very different mindset that has been written here. But in the current market, I can very much agree to it that it is something that right now the kind of war for talent, or probably the kind of the shift that has been done into the industry. It is not, since I'm from IT industry, I have seen in other industries also wherein people are now becoming more on on those platforms which are virtual platforms. Earlier the offices were important, but right now everybody has office at home. So I think that if you can also relate to it, that earlier people were more skeptical about moving out of their place, that whether we should move to any tier 1 city or so, but now they're getting all those opportunities here. So I think when we talk about as an employer, I think right now the kind of people we are working with, they are the one who are actually creating the brand. And I personally think that right now the industry is the one who is actually looking out for people. It is not when they say that come back, you are nothing without me. No, I totally disagree to it now in today's scenario, that right now we are in that condition that we need people. And it is not only people, we have seen that people who are working from home, but they are working for 2-3 organizations. So the kind of loyalty is there, which is missing. So we are actually not looking out for only people who can work, but who can bring that value, and moreover who can create a brand as well, and who should be loyal to the organization. So this is all what I have to say.
Brilliant. Absolutely. The war for talent is so intense. So there was an article recently, you are talking about 3 jobs. There was an employee who was caught that he had 7 jobs. So that's
I read that. And that was found because of the UN number, probably due to the PF thing. He was found out that he's actually going around with the 7 jobs at one time. So this is, I think that the organization says that, but if I talk about the picture which is here on my screen, but now it is more or less the opposite thing. We need people, but with that integrity, which is probably missing at some stage.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sonika. Anybody else would like to share their comments before we move on?
Yes, Richa, Jyotishika this side.
Hi, Jyotishika.
Hi. I would like to talk about being bettering self. That is the expectations employer hold these days, working with companies which are based in the domain of ITES, where the learning is like exorbitant. It's not limited to one thing, and the if somebody wants to better themselves, I think the organizations would be looking forward to it and would like to expand their horizons and integrate the new, I would say, opportunities in the market. So this is one thing where each employee can act as a strategic partner to the organization.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. One more person I would love to have. Okay. So now this is something which is there. Now you can see that there are 4 types of trees here. Some that are growing in deserts, some that are growing in deep snow, some tropical climate, and some temperate climate. And that exactly is the composition of the employees. And this is where, like they say, the double-edged sword rests. You are one organization, you have a value system, you have a cultural system. So you have to integrate. And at the same time, you will have to differentiate the experience for each employee. Right? And we all know there are all types of employees that we have, and which is why I wanted to show you this particular picture. There are some people who are highly self-driven. Then there are others who need to be encouraged to take on responsibility, but if they do, they will really do wonders. There are some people who are technically very sound, especially because both Jyotishika and Sonika, who spoke from the IT sector, typically there are some people who are excellent individual contributors, but we end up making them managers, and that's where, they lose their performance. So how is it that an organization is going to manage this multitude of people? People come from different backgrounds, historical backgrounds, geographical backgrounds, different ethnicity, so many differences. And we are, in fact, encouraging diversity. So how are we going to handle them? So this is one slide where I wanted to spend a couple of minutes. What is culture? So this, if you look, is the ecosystem of the entire organization. The people, the processes, and the business links. And this is all ensconced within the culture of the organization. And I'd like to take a minute here to, you kind of ponder about what culture really is. So culture is not something that you can write down. You can write down your values, you can write down your vision, mission, everything. But culture cannot be written down. Culture is experienced. Culture is that thing which are stories that are shared across a cup of coffee and at the water cooler, right? That is culture. Culture is everything that an employee experiences with us. The layout of the office, the infrastructure of the office, the decibel levels in the organization, how people speak with each other, that is culture. And how do people, thank you for that, Sonika, and how do people experience culture? Through the processes. Now, let us say that you are in an organization where the organization is consistently delaying its deliveries. What does the employee experience? The employee feels that the organization is not customer-centric, and the employee always receives a lot of flack from the customers. So that is the culture they experience there. And what are the business links? So this is the ecosystem of the entire organization. And whatever strategy you may have, it is a cliched sentence, but I'll repeat it again. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. So it is this culture that is going to help you get 10x results. And it is this culture which, when it is going to get us results, it will translate into ROI. So just like we bought the van ho, just like we bought that expensive property, or we were dabbling in shares, how did we get the return? That's how we got it. So we invest in our people and we get the results there. This is what is encapsulating the entire journey of how do you get return on investment from your team. So as you can see, there is, again, the overriding thing you see is emotional contract. And what is this emotional contract? This emotional contract, if you remember the slide that I showed, that what does the employee expect beyond salary? What does the employer expect beyond service? So I'll give you an example. So we were doing a case study for this organization, and we were in a journey with them. And, you know, we shared an experience where they are in the business of government contracts. And there was a contract and there was a problem. The proposal, the tender had not reached Mumbai in time. Now, this was a place which did not have any direct flights to Mumbai. So, and they had to dispatch the tender. And it had to reach next day morning. So they sent their peon, and they sent their peon with the tender on a train. The person had to change the train in, midway in Pune. Now, what happened that the train to Pune got cancelled. Now, this person had no access. This train is at 12 o'clock in the night. He cannot call anyone. He cannot do anything. He's on a salary of 15,000. And the ticket that he has to purchase now is for 20,000. He doesn't ask anyone. He buys the ticket, ensures that the tender reaches in time. He has no guarantee whether that money will be given back to him. And this is emotional contract. When he missed the train, as per his agreement of service, that's where it ended. But he went way beyond it. Just like, many of those organizations, especially IT organizations, the way you go beyond the call of duty for your employee. And this is where it gets reflected back. Now, what are the various elements that further come in creating this kind of, so this is the emotional contract. This is how your employer brand gets created. Employer brand will never get created by the kind of advertisements you put or social media agency that you may hire. It is the series of actions that we have with each of the employees in our organization that this employer brand gets created. So let's begin with hiring. You'll be very interested to know that India is number 4 in the world in making wrong hiring decisions. And medium to large organizations figure out that they lose almost 20 lakhs when there is a bad hiring. There is a survey that showed that 84% of the organization, and this includes SMEs, medium organizations, large organizations, and 84% of the organizations said that they were greatly affected by their bad hiring choices. And why does a bad hire cost money? The cost of hiring, the cost of training the person. This person who comes in who's not fitting in is going to spoil the environment because he or she is going to be demotivated. And when this new person who comes in does not do what he or she is expected to do, other people get loaded. That's a cost. Then the cost of attrition. Productivity gets lowered. The time that the position is open is again another cost. Yes, the cost of time in hiring wrong. That's right, Jyotishika. So what are some of the elements that you need to take care of? So one is organization structure. So I was talking to somebody, and this is not a small organization. This is a 1,000 CR organization, and it's a family-run organization. So I was speaking with their director HR, and she says that, the problem statement is correct. She says that 95% of our business is coming from exports. And, domestic sales is only 5%. And when we had COVID, when nothing was going out of the country, we still had to pay for the workers. How much material could we have collected? And we realized that we have to increase our domestic market. So now I need to hire somebody for domestic sales. The job description. So we were doing, we were training for recruitment, a very large organization that is a trendsetter or a forerunner in electric vehicles. And it was very interesting to know that teams are essentially IITs, IIMs, and pedigree of 4 to 5 years. When we did, a kind of simulation, we realized that recruiters are going ahead without paying attention to the job description. Yeah. Process is very important in recruitment because a relevant candidate is available in the market only for 10 days. And I know, HR people who are here, or if there are some recruiters, the hiring manager creates a lot of excitement. I want to hire immediately. And then when you send the CVs, they won't shortlist. When you set up the interview, they don't have time. Then expectations need to be very clear. So one of the experiments that we did as an organization, and it really worked, even in organizations like Wipro, before the organization rolls out the offer letter, we get a mail from the candidate saying that this is what they expect from the job. Then investing time in the assessments, whether it is assignments, competency-based interviews, and reference check and verification are very important. Induction. Now, induction is a thing which is most important. If any of you have joined a club, you can see that, how much time is invested in inducting new employees. What I would suggest to you is go back and review your 1 to 3 month attrition. And you will realize that most of that has been because of incorrect handling, right? Number of times, the hiring manager will come back to you and say that this employee was such a good performer, but he or she is not performing well in our organization. What's gone wrong? What's gone wrong is we did not handle that person well in the initial period. And again, induction does not start on the day the employee joins. Induction actually starts from the day that you give out an offer letter. Again, when policies are not clear, the new employee comes, violates policies. We had a situation where, in one of the organizations, we helped them to hire, they headhunted the candidate. They were so inspired by that candidate. They headhunted the candidate, very, very senior person, and he was not aware of what the travel policies are. So he was traveling overseas and he created a claim basis what he was used to doing in his previous organization. Again, this was an IT organization. Now, this organization had very different policies. So this became a moral dilemma and they had to let the person go. Increasing employee commitment is what happens in induction. And also it allows the new employee to network within the organization. So like I said, onboarding happens on the day the person is joining, but induction starts immediately post offer letter. So you should have a structured, regimented approach about the number of connects you have with the employee or the person you've given an offer to between offer and joining. On the joining day, you have to give a complete red carpet treatment. The person should feel welcomed. What I have seen in many organizations is that on the joining day, HR team considers the new joinee as an interruption. The same employee for whom they had tried very hard to get the employee, they look at that employee as an interruption. The person keeps sitting, finally is given forms, and in most cases, he ends up or she ends up filling the same forms, information which they had already given in the candidate information form. How do you get the person to meet the team? So, in another company, we had created a ritual. It was a company called Punch. The IT people here must be knowing it. So because it was Punch, so we said that all the new employees who come in, if you can see my hand movement, they would slap the hand of the new employee and say, Punch, hello. Then informing about policies. Another two important things that should happen are you have to confirm the new employee's understanding about the policies, the ecosystem, the infrastructure, what their role is going to be, and taking a feedback. You must take a feedback about how the process has been so far, and then you should feed it back into the recruitment team. Get them to meet the leadership. This is the time when you should tell the person to draw up the 90-day plan. Because this is the biggest engager. This is the biggest thing that is going to ensure that productivity happens. Handholding the employees, giving them buddies, creating an employee handbook are all part of joining an induction. So you've hired the candidate, you've inducted the candidate has been confirmed 3 months, 6 months, whatever your process is. Goals is another thing which is very important. And this is where, I always urge that this is where HR actually becomes a strategic business partner. Everything should start from the vision, mission, and strategy of the organization. And the HR team must actually take a very active part in designing or being part of the annual operating plan, right? The annual operating plan is a document where the organization puts its plan in terms of numbers. Every little expense that they are going to make, whether it is capital expense or it is working capital, and every bit of revenue that they are going to make, even revenue that they are going to make from, let us say, selling scrap, comes in here. When the team, and this is what the HR, this is what the HR team needs to endeavor to do, is that this annual operating plan should be owned by the team. It should be collaborative. And this is when you design the KPIs and the KRAs. Again, the KRAs must be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, timely. Again, when the KRAs are being designed, the source of measurement should be very clearly explained. And the numbers must add up. And now let me explain this. So let us say hypothetically that the overall revenue that you hope to achieve is 1000 CR. But many a times you will see that the numbers do not add up. So the organization is carrying a target of 1000 CR, but when you look at individual departmental revenues, it's adding up only to 950. So this is a validation that the HR team must definitely do. Yeah, so Jyotishika, it is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Another very important thing, and this is very important at an organizational level and for the HR team, have one number. Have one number. By one number, I mean any one number. Because now I'll use a very colloquial thing, jo dikhta hai, wo bikta hai. If you have one number and everybody is striving towards that one number. So I want to tell you a story here. We all know how difficult it was to put a man on moon, right? And it was Kennedy's dream to put a man on moon. Unfortunately, the man on moon happened 1 year after Kennedy died. And we do know that there were a lot of mishaps, accidents, investment, technology that went into it. So one day Kennedy went to NASA. When he went to NASA, he asked the janitor. Janitor is somebody who cleans up the premises. He asked the janitor, he said, "Why are you here?" And the janitor says, "I am here to put a man on moon." And that is the level of goal alignment that we're talking about. One number, one mission. So the day your organization has one number, everybody will then gun towards that number. Everybody will know that how are they contributing to that one number. Again, the approach that you can use for making KPIs, KRAs, or goals, it can be a balanced scorecard, it can be a MBO, or it can be OKR. In India, we largely use balanced scorecard. And typically the 4 areas that we like to pick up, one is financial. So financial would essentially be, the revenue that you're making or the cost that you're optimizing. Or the cost that you are optimizing. Customer goals, how do you service customer better? So for HR, it is going to be internal customers. What are the processes? And what is the learning and growth, system improvement? What are the new systems that you're going to implement? There has to be an achievement grid. So you have to tell the employee that if they achieve at 80%, 85%, 100%, what is the impact it will have on this thing? Again, when you're making the KRAs, I would strongly recommend that don't have more than 4 or 5 elements. The weightage given to anything should not be less than 10%, and it should not be more than 40%. So I'll give you an example. For a salesperson, you would say that the only thing the salesperson is supposed to do is sales. So how can we have 5 different metrics here? So 5 different metrics are there. An alternative to, yes, absolutely. Thank you, Naveen. So, yeah. So, I'm sorry. So for sales, how do you have these 5 elements? So one is, there are some input elements that are very important. So let us say the person is doing on-ground activation, or let us say it is a car salesperson. So one of the input metrics can be the number of on-ground activations you have done. Then, of course, number of cars is going to be a very important metrics. Another very important metrics therein can be that what is the revenue per car that you are earning. So this can prevent them from giving too much discount. So essentially your KRA should be well-rounded, where you can ensure that the person is performing as per the overall organizational objective. Review. This is my favorite topic. So what gets reviewed gets done. In a number of organizations, so there was this organization that we did an OD project for, consulting project for. We did just one thing. For 4 to 6 months, we just did reviews. We just reviewed. And you'd be surprised to know that the revenue doubled. And I'll tell you there's a reason. In many organizations, reviews are very random. They happen, they don't happen, sometimes they happen. So regularity in review. A number of times people have a habit, many managers have this habit, they'll walk around and ask, Acha kya hua? Uska kya hua? Not only do you disturb the employee at that moment, you also do not bring any seriousness, and you yourself forget. You have to know what to review. So very interestingly, there was this organization that we were working for, and the production team was being reviewed for revenue targets, which is essentially a sales number. When to review? These will be weekly reviews, these will be fortnightly reviews, monthly reviews, quarterly, annual. How to review? So what is the review template that is there? How are people presenting? It has to be linked to the goals. Again, a very important thing that reviews do is that they drive collaboration. Otherwise, there is this typical habit that people put their monkey on the back. So ask the salesperson, sales kyun nahi hui? Oh, I don't have a team. HR has been unable to hire. All right, we've given you manpower. Now, why did not sell? Oh, I did not sell because, the feedback about the quality of our product is very bad. Did you tell the manufacturing person? No, I haven't. So when you have everybody in the same room, nobody can put their monkey on anybody's back, right? So objective of the review has to be very clear. After every review, there should be minutes of meetings. And again, reviews also should be used to readjust targets. You may want to increase targets. You may want to decrease targets. That's completely a review-based thing. That's what a review gives you. Feedback. This is one of the most important things. And in many, many Indian organizations, we do not like to give feedback. And this has to do something about the cultural background also. We don't give feedback because we feel that giving feedback may spoil our relationship. But what it really does is that when you don't give feedback, whether it is feedback in terms of a performance feedback, feedback in terms of a behavior that an employee is demonstrating or not demonstrating, at the time of performance appraisal, when you start giving feedback, the employee says, oh, this is a ploy so that they don't have to give me an increment. This is a ploy so that they don't have to give me a promotion. And the very reason for which the feedback was given is lost. Absolutely, Jyotishika. Feedback is the most underrated driver. Timing of feedback is very important. So there is a lot of research that shows that immediate feedback is important. What happens is that if you don't give feedback at that time and you give feedback, let's say after a week or 10 days, then a lot of emotions get attached to that feedback, both for the giver and the receiver. Because let us say that there is an inappropriate behavior that a team member demonstrated today. You don't give that feedback in the fear of hurting that person. And then there are several other interactions that happen in the next 5 or 10 days. Now, when you're going to give the feedback, your feedback will get diluted, right? And there are various reactions to feedback. Some people freeze if the feedback is not given correctly. Some people will fight it. No, this is not true. I've never done this. Some people will run away from it. Some people will fake it. That yes, I will do it. And in their mind, they are thinking, oh, let me look for another job. Or my manager is really not somebody I would like to work with. Faith. And this is what your feedback should generate, faith. And which is where your credibility is very important. Because the objective of every feedback has to be performance improvement. Again, if we are trying to get a return on investment, performance feedback should result in employees demonstrating the behaviors that we want them to, in delivering the results that they are expected to. Differentiate. And this is very important again. A number of times we feel that if we differentiate too much, people will leave the organization. And this is a fallacy. If the goals are set correctly, if regular performance feedback is given, then differentiation is one of the best things that can help your organization deliver at a higher level. And there's a reason for that. Let us say employee A is performing at 120%. Employee B is performing at 80%, hypothetically. And you say, let us reward them equally. What will happen? Employee A will say, to hell with it. Why should I perform at 120%? He is going to lower his performance bar. Employee B, who was performing at 80%, says, Arey, employee A, who really worked hard, performed at 120%, when he is getting rewarded almost similar to what I am getting rewarded, why the heck should I work hard? He further lowers his or her performance. So the overall performance norm of the organization goes down. People want to be recognized, because if you want to reinforce the behavior, you want people to demonstrate, in that case, you have to recognize them. Again, you have to reward both for performance and for potential. Performance is the what of performance, what of doing a job, the target that you have given. And potential is the how of doing a job. Potential is essentially around the competencies, behavioral competencies. So for example, strategic orientation, that is a competency. Being a change agent, that is a competency. And how do you measure it? So you measure performance with your performance management system. And for potential, I'm going to spend a couple of minutes there, that how do you define competencies and how do you measure them? Having performance-linked incentives is a very powerful tool, but how you use it is very important. Incentives should be linked to organizational goals, departmental goals, and individual goals. Let us say you link it only to an individual goal. And as an individual, a person is in purchase. Now, what that person is going to do is that person is going to buy cheapest because that's the target that he has, that, save money. And the quality will go for a toss. There will be customer rejections. Organization will make losses. So ultimately, whenever you devise a scheme, you should ensure that organizational goals have to be delivered. And again, what you have to differentiate here is that a person who is a CEO has the opportunity of impacting the organizational goals the most. Somebody who is a front runner will also impact organizational goals, but his weightage or ability is higher towards individual goals. Promotion should typically happen when there is a role change. So again, there has to be learning and development. When an employee is leaving an organization, you should create apostles. A number of organizations make this mistake that they try to, make it difficult for an employee to leave. Much rather create apostles out of them so that they go and build your brand, build a community with them, and let them be rehire resources. So like I talked about competencies. So very quickly, what Finesse is into is we are into assessment centers, recruitment, trainings, OD interventions, coaching, diagnostics, and SME consulting. And what assessment centers are, I would like to take a minute to tell you this because, so basically in assessment centers, when I had talked about potential, how do you identify the potential of a person? You have to identify their competencies. What are competencies? These are the behaviors that differentiate a superior performer from an average performer. Right? So essentially, you should all be mapping the competencies, and then basis competencies, you should be evaluating your team for potential. Basis that you can create an individual development plan. How do you do it? You should have cognitive assessment tools. You should have psychometric assessment tools. You can use a variety of other tools like Ravens, Hogan, Harrison. You can use role plays, case studies, in-basket games. So you can always get in touch with us if you want to create an assessment center or any of these services, because we are right at the end of our webinar. I would like to close right on time, but these are the services, and we would be very happy for any of you to get in touch for any of these services, whether it's defining competencies to assess potential, developing assessment centers, recruitment, training, OD interventions, coaching, diagnostic, or SME consulting. My number is 8. I'll put my number in the chat. You can reach out to me, and this is our website, and in case largely for business consulting and sales consulting, you can get in touch with Mr. Sunir Zindani. I'm just putting so you can copy any of these from here.
I'm also sharing a Google review link. You're kindly requested to share your feedback about the session. We love your feedback.
Thank you so much. Request you to copy this. Thank you, Naveen. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to have you. Thank you, Jyotishika.
Thanks, Richa. And thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.